Even if you're an introvert, you need not be an engaging speaker. But that could be because you're going to speak to a stranger, or maybe you're not very comfortable. So what? Suppose you share something with the person in a positive manner, also some bragging about things in your mind during a conversation. Okay, so you know that there are two words, whether and whether. I'm going to be exhausted after having talked with this person. I've been talking for maybe 2 or 3 months, but I really feel exhausted. I'm drained. But in between, when the person is speaking, you don't have to interrupt, because there are possibilities. It's okay even if you are not a good conversationalist, even if you're an introvert, you need not be an engaging speaker. But while having a conversation with your friends or family members, these are some of the things that you have to keep in mind. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining me again, and this is Renee Rose Matthew. I would like to speak about a topic that was requested a few weeks back by a few subscribers: how to make a conversation. Many of us face starting trouble. That could be because you're going to speak to a stranger, or maybe you're not very comfortable. Everything is okay. And it could also be because you are trying to make a conversation in the English language. But today, the topic is how to really make a conversation despite the language. Even if you're using English or your mother tongue or anything, these are some of the things that you have to keep in mind. Well, the first point is, so what? Yeah. There is this attitude, so what attitude. Some people are quite verbal in expressing this so what attitude. That is, they are explicit and they speak about it. They will directly ask you, so what? Suppose you share something with the person in a positive manner, also some people say, so what? That's okay, it's only to motivate you. But suppose this so what attitude is really careless and not very cautious about what the person is trying to say, then it can really damage the course of conversation. So as I told you, some people are very verbal, they express it directly. But otherwise, some people have this so what attitude. They don't tell it verbally. They don't express it. But they have that attitude. So what? I don't care. Okay, good for her, good for you. Now, these expressions are okay. I'm not speaking about these expressions, the language, but it's more about the attitude. When you always have this so what attitude, it will not be good for the conversation. If that is your attitude, it's okay. But when a person is coming and speaking to you, avoid this so what attitude. You can be what you are, but sometimes pay attention, show a little bit of care, and at least try to listen to what the person is trying to say. And even if you don't have the solution, don't always go for this so what attitude. Otherwise, also, having a so what attitude to yourself can also damage. You may not experience the damage all of a sudden, but it is a gradual corrosion. Remember that. The next point is, we all love speaking to people. Some of us don't. It's okay if you're an introvert, because sometimes when you're alone also, repairing happens. When you experience solitude, you always introspect and get an insight of the individual hiding within you. So it's okay if you're an introvert, if you don't like to speak to people, always also, it's fine. But bragging about things in your mind, during a conversation also, if you keep bragging about your achievements, what you do, see, if a person asks you what you're doing, and if the person is really interested in knowing the details, elaborate, expand. Otherwise, bragging about your achievements, bragging about your family members, bragging about only your interest. Sometimes you would have noticed people talking about only one particular thing. Their content will always be the same. They'll not be interested in your whereabouts. They will not even ask you whether you had your food or whether you had a pleasant day. It will always be one thing that's specific. That's a kind of ventilation that happens. So a conversation becomes fruitful, at least engaging. I cannot say that all conversations should be fruitful, should be productive. Sometimes you just converse and you speak to people to be engaged, to while away the time. That is also okay. There are different purposes. But still, what I'm trying to tell you is during the conversation, make sure that both are engaged. It is like giving and taking, not bragging and yapping about what you do or what the achievements are all about. It's okay to share, but there also you need to keep the limit and boundaries. Um, you might be thinking that a good friend will always encourage your achievements. Encouraging achievement is different from listening to the bragging and yapping given by a particular person. Okay. The next point is we all ask this question: how are you? You need to pay some attention to the person standing in front of you. What I mean is, there are possibilities that you know the individual. At the same time, you could be familiar with the family members also. Okay, suppose it's your friend and you know her mother, father, and everyone personally, you are a family friend. First, inquire about the person standing in front of you. Even if you're too close with the sister, try to inquire about the person standing in front. How are you? How do you do? It's been a long time. There are different ways, at least for courtesy's sake. I'm not asking you to pretend, but some people go to the extent of asking only about the other person. Hey, how's your sister? I saw her 2 years back. How is she doing? It's only about the whereabouts of that person, or the mother, or someone else in the family. Make sure that you inquire about the person who is standing in front of you. That is a direct conversation. Then you inquire about the others. It's very important. That's what makes a conversation engaging. It makes a conversation. Okay? Weather only. Okay, so you know that there are two words, weather and weather. I'm going to speak about this weather. Some people are interested only in speaking about the weather. It's okay, you can exchange conversations and speak about the weather, the climate. It's good, it's informative, but it shouldn't go beyond a limit. Some people call only to ask about the weather, only to speak about it. You can say, okay, it's raining here. What about your place? Is it okay? Do you receive rainfall? All that is fine. But I'm speaking about the boundary that you cross. It's only about the weather when you really don't have a content. You don't know what to speak. You just don't know how to proceed with the conversation. Then if that's the case, why do you even make a call? Why do you have a conversation? Okay, so only speaking about weather, only speaking about something that's specific will definitely destroy the course of the conversation. Rude ways. Some people are really rude. We cannot do anything about that. Even if you're polite, even if you're generous and kind, some will always express in a very rude way. Being explicit, being open, voicing your opinion, all these three are different from being rude. Okay, it's not advisable to be rude, to be rash in the way you speak. Even if your words are okay, your body language, the way you keep your face, the way you articulate the words, everything clearly shows. It's so obvious whether a person is rude, because there are people who say, I didn't say anything for that. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just asked you, how are you? Okay, you can ask how are you in different ways. How are you? How are you? How are you? How are you? There are different ways in which you can ask, with attitude, without attitude, with genuinity. That's okay. But being rude is totally different. Being rash, it could be the way of some people. You need to understand and filter such kind of behavior. Some people are cold. They have this cold attitude. Now, being cold doesn't mean cool. Cool is different. Some are so cold with their attitude, it's okay to not open up. Some people may not be calm and comfortable in opening up things, but it's always a cold response that you get. Being cold is different from being an introvert or being rude. Being rude is totally different from being cold with conversation. Always you get, I don't know, I'm busy, maybe. Always it's, I don't think so. Okay, so cold attitude where you know that the person is not interested in making a conversation. If you're busy, if the person is busy, it's always good to say, I'm busy, I'm not having the time right now. Okay, and if you're quite courteous, you can say, I'm sorry, I'll get back to you later. But always this oh, all these kind of expressions and the way you express consistently is not a good way of making a conversation. The next point that you should keep in mind is after having a conversation, you always analyze, right? Whether you sit down with the paper and pen or not, you have that analysis in your mind. Oh, it was a really good conversation. I had some good time with this person. It's not about the productivity of the conversation or the quality of the conversation, but you feel so happy. Sometimes you become so exhausted. It's not that you're getting tired, you're physically tired, but you become mentally drained. You experience this drainage. You had so much of positivity or you had so much of energy while speaking, but after the conversation, you simply feel drained. And you feel that this is not going in the right way or it is simply not making any sense. All these things contribute to being exhausted after a conversation. Do not prolong it. Do not go for such a conversation again. It could be because of various reasons. It depends on the mood of the person, it depends on the content and a lot of such aspects. But if it's consistent, where you always feel exhausted, this happens in relationship. I've heard a lot of people saying, especially during my counseling sessions, that I really feel exhausted after having talked with this person. I've been talking for maybe 2 or 3 months, but I really feel exhausted. I'm drained. I don't want to prolong. Okay, these are some of the thoughts that will run in your mind. Not only in English, even if it's in your mother tongue, it's okay. Emotions, thoughts, reflections are very important when it comes to behavior. Being a good listener. Now, when you have a friend, when you have a family member who takes all the time or who patiently listens to what you're trying to say, do not dispose such people. Do not neglect, do not reject such people because today the world is really busy. Everyone will not have the time for you or they may not just want to give you the time. It's not about giving the time, but it's more about the approach and the mindset and the willingness to have the time. So listening skill is very, very important. Apart from listening, it shouldn't be always just sitting there and listening to what you say or not engaging in the conversation because some people are very good with listening. They only listen. They don't give a solution. That's also okay. They don't engage in the conversation. Okay, so that is dangerous, but I'm speaking about the listening part, being attentive. There is a very big difference between listen and hear. So listening to you is important without interrupting. The next point is interruption. Now, this is very common these days. The minute you answer a question, suppose your friend asks you something, you're trying to give the answer. As soon as you complete the first 2 sentences or the first 2 words, the friend interrupts. This happens amidst a family conversation. You're asked something. When you try explaining or when you try giving the answer, there will be people in the room trying to interrupt saying, I know, yeah, this one, that. Conclusion happens. Judgments happen there. Okay, I think it's important for you to wait till the person completes the answer. That is courtesy. After that, you can throw a question or shoot a question or try clarifying it. But in between, when the person is speaking, you don't have to interrupt because there are possibilities that you miss out on a lot of things. When the speaker is speaking, there is some concentration and focus involved. Why do you want to interrupt that? The person may lose track. Now, if that's your intention, cannot say anything about that, no comments. But it's always good to not interrupt, pay attention, and then speak about what you really want to say. That's all. So these are some of the points that really make a conversation. We see a lot of people around us. Some of them are very particular about listening, responding to messages, responding to calls. Some are very disciplined. You don't have to really read a book on discipline to be disciplined in life. These are very small things that you can do in your daily life to make a conversation, to keep a relationship going. It's not necessary that you have to call the person every day. There are people who send good morning and good night messages every day, but they know nothing about the person. That also happens. We are living in this digital era. So making a conversation is important because we are not zombies, we are not machines, we are human beings. We are created as human beings. And it's always good to engage, to be engaged in a conversation, to be a listener, to be a good speaker. So before I end this video, This is my email ID. I encourage only this mode of communication. It's not advisable to share contact number. And also, one more thing is please read the channel description. I have given all the details there, including the email ID. If you really want to inquire about training sessions, don't post it in the comment section. You know that I'm taking training sessions. Why don't you send emails? If it's something that you really want to write about, giving a feedback, giving a suggestion, you can send emails and also use the comment section. Use it wisely and productively, not to conclude things or not to inquire about the training sessions repeatedly. You can introduce yourself if you really want to, all that is fine. But use it with a productive purpose, and let's encourage learning more than language, more than attitude and all the wrong mindset. Bye bye, take care. Thank you so much.